Imagine for a second, right, that you are a veteran meteorologist.
Hmm.
You've spent your entire career studying weather patterns, analyzing satellite imagery, and mapping out atmospheric pressure changes.
Right, you basically got the textbook memorized.
Exactly. You know exactly what a hurricane is supposed to look like.
Hmm.
But then one day, you glance at your radar and you see a storm that just, well, it isn't spinning.
Wow, just a straight line.
Yeah, it's just this sheer wall of kinetic energy moving in straight lines and completely ripping up the coastline in a way that defies every single physical model you've ever trusted.
So your textbooks are just entirely useless at that point.
Literally out the window. And that feeling of pure, unadulterated bewilderment, that is exactly what we are stepping into today.
Yeah.
So welcome to a very unique deep dive.
It's a really fascinating one, too.
It really is. Today, we're opening up a highly classified, newly released observation log from Team AI Lab, and it's dated June 24th, 2026.
Right. And our mission here is to observe this incredible algorithmic simulation where two very contrasting strategic philosophies are basically battling against a market environment that has suddenly and violently turned hostile.
Yeah, it is a wild scenario. But before we take even one step further into the simulation, we need to establish the absolute golden rule of this deep dive.
Oh, absolutely. The disclaimer.
Yes, the big disclaimer. This is purely an analysis of algorithmic behavior and experimental simulation results.
We are essentially scientists observing a petri dish here.
Right, this is strict, detached observation. So,
Yeah.
just to be clear, there are no buy or sell recommendations happening here.
Not at all.
We are not offering financial advice, we are not handing out stock tips, and we are certainly making zero promises about future profits.
Yeah, we are entirely focused on looking at a sterile, objective environment to see how, cold calculating logic handles a totally chaotic, illogical situation.
Exactly. It's an exploration of artificial intelligence and strategic theory. It is not a playbook for your personal portfolio.
Right. We're here to watch the simulation run, not to play the game ourselves.
So let's unpack this hostile environment, because when we say the market has turned chaotic, I mean, we are not talking about a standard Tuesday sell-off.
No, not at all. The simulation indices are showing a fundamental breakdown of normal market physics.
Right, a complete breakdown. Because, well, a standard statistical dip usually has a traceable fundamental cause, right?
Yeah, normally you look at the data and you can pinpoint, say, a geopolitical event or maybe a sudden interest rate hike.
Or a supply chain disruption or something.
Exactly. You find a clear cause and effect. But the environment logged on June 24th, 2026, it's behaving as though the underlying gravity of the market has just been switched off.
Switched off entirely.
Yeah.
And the numbers in the log, they highlight this really profound divergence between the simulation's algorithms and the major market indices.
The gap is massive.
It's huge. The log shows Team Mountain Climbers sitting at negative 4.0 points versus the Nikkei 225 index, and they're at negative 0.2 versus the 2px.
And meanwhile, Team Wave Riders is sitting at negative 3.6 versus the Nikkei.
Right. And to understand the gravity of that gap, I mean, we need to look at how those benchmarks actually function.
Yeah, because the Nikkei 225, that represents the broad, overarching reality of the Japanese market.
It's basically the biggest blue chip companies, right?
And it's a price-weighted index of those massive companies. And then the TOPIX gives us an even broader capitalization-weighted snapshot.
So when you see proprietary algorithmic units deviating by 3 or 4 full points, I mean, that's not normal.
No, especially because in this simulation, a point represents a heavily weighted proprietary scoring metric. It's not just a simple percentage drop.
Right, it's a completely different scale.
Exactly. So you are looking at two completely different realities. The broader indices are experiencing, maybe a choppy surface, but underneath, these algorithms are caught in severe rip currents that are just tearing standard statistical models apart.
So how does an algorithm even attempt to survive a rip current that aggressive?
Well, that's the core of the simulation. It tests two distinct algorithmic philosophies. They're essentially two different ways of life.
Right, Team Mountain Climbers and Team Wave Riders.
Yeah. Let's break down how these two systems actually process the data.
Okay, let's start with the Mountain Climbers.
So the mountain climbers operate on this foundational logic called equilibrium detection.
Equilibrium detection, okay.
Right. So in a highly volatile environment, their code is entirely focused on finding a mathematical center of gravity.
Like looking for a safe zone.
Exactly. They are scanning thousands of data points, searching for the eye of the hurricane. They want the specific market microstructures that simply do not move, even when the broader sectors around them are just spinning out of control.
Oh, wow. So it's like Think of it like active noise-canceling headphones.
That is a great analogy.
The algorithm is reading the chaotic frequency of the market's volatility, and it is actively hunting for the exact inverse data points to just flatten that audio wave down to zero.
Right, it wants absolute silence.
It wants to find the bedrock and just bolt itself down.
Exactly. It is a highly defensive, stabilizing calculation. It actively rejects momentum.
Okay, so that's the climbers. But then we have the completely opposite approach with Team Wave Riders.
Yeah, their underlying philosophy is surging force tracking.
Surging force tracking, so they're chasing the storm.
Pretty much. They analyze the exact same Category 5 market hurricane, but they attempt to harvest the kinetic energy.
So instead of bolting themselves down to the bedrock, they're grabbing the surfboard.
Basically, yeah, they're essentially wind turbines built for a hurricane. They do not want silence at all. They want maximum kinetic velocity.
They're trying to mathematically align themselves with the vector of the volatility, right?
Exactly. Turning the violent momentum of those rough waves into a propulsive force.
Which is wild. Catching the right wave would provide massive algorithmic propulsion.
It does. It is a pure momentum strategy pitted against a pure equilibrium strategy. And both are being stress tested in a market that is actively dismantling traditional trading patterns.
So because the environment on June 24 is so extreme, we need to look at how these two philosophies are actually managing their active units on the front lines.
Yeah, the observation log provides exact data from their 9:00 a.m. Japan Standard Time daily scouting.
And this is where we see theory translate into actionable deployment, right?
Exactly. The scouting draft reveals how these algorithmic philosophies assess risk thresholds.
Because every morning, these systems scan the market topography to decide if they want to recruit newly scouted units into their 10-session active rosters.
Right. And these newly drafted units, they act as new talent injected into the active environment.
Okay, so let's look at the numbers. Team Wave Riders scanned the roaring ocean at 9:00 a.m., and they drafted 3 newly scouted units.
Yep. 3 pieces of new talent deployed directly into the churning water.
But Team Mountain Climbers drafted absolutely 0. Not one single new unit.
And this specific divergence in the draft data is probably the most telling part of the morning log.
But wait, hold on. An algorithmic trading system that is specifically designed to adapt and deploy units decides to do absolutely nothing in the middle of a highly active trading session.
Doing nothing is a choice.
But it sounds like a system crash. I mean, did the Mountain Climber bot just hit a volatility failsafe and shut itself off because the math got too complicated?
You know, it really looks like a system failure to a human observer. But mathematically, it is a deliberate, highly calculated rejection of the data.
Oh, wow.
To understand this, we have to look at their main forces, the active rosters. Both teams currently have exactly 22 units deployed in the field.
Right.
The Wave Riders, by drafting 3 units of new talent, they are throwing fresh sensors into the turbulence.
Because their surging force logic requires them to continuously test the momentum.
Exactly. They have to cast a wide net to see if any of these new units can latch onto a profitable vector.
I see. They need momentum to function, so they are forced to keep testing the water, even if the water is incredibly dangerous.
Right. But the mountain climbers are relying strictly on their existing main forces. Adding 0 new units is not a glitch at all.
So it's intentional restraint.
Completely. Their equilibrium detection algorithm scanned the entire morning environment, ran its statistical models, found 0 inverse frequencies that matched its safety parameters, and just executed a null command.
Basically saying the conditions for deployment are not met.
Precisely. The program refuses to deploy new talent until the mathematical ground stops shaking. I mean, doing nothing in a crisis requires an immense amount of pre-programmed discipline.
That is fascinating. So we have 44 total active units out there in this physics-defying storm, 22 main forces on each side.
Right.
The immediate question is whether any of these units are actually surviving the deployment, or if both algorithms are just getting totally pulverized by the anomaly.
Well, this survival data is a pretty brutal testament to the harshness of the June 24 conditions. Out of the 22 active mountain climbers, only 11 are holding positive points.
Wow. And out of the 22 Wave Riders, only 8 are holding positive points.
Yeah, it's rough out there.
That leaves us with 11 for the mountain climbers and 8 for the Wave Riders. So out of 44 highly advanced algorithmic units, only 19 are registering in the green.
But those 19 surviving units, they're serving as lighthouses in the dark.
Lighthouses in the dark. I like that.
Because the overwhelming majority of standard market strategies are being swallowed whole by this specific anomaly. So these rare adapters are miraculously maintaining a positive trajectory.
They have actually managed to locate microscopic mathematical safe harbors within all that chaos.
Exactly. I mean, if a human trader saw that less than half of their active portfolio was in the green, they'd probably liquidate everything and walk away.
Right, they'd panic.
Yeah.
But in an experimental environment where the fundamental rules are broken, the fact that these 19 units are surviving at all, I mean, isn't that proof that the algorithms are processing microstructures that human eyes simply cannot see?
100%. A human operator is blinded by fear and red screens. But the algorithmic adapter processes the severe drawdown and identifies specific coordinate clusters that remain stable.
And the log actually provides a concrete example of this analysis succeeding.
It does. So the simulation operates on a mandated 10-session tracking protocol. Units are given a strict 10-session lifespan to prove their viability in the market.
Okay.
And today, the mountain climbers recorded a massive victory on their exit scorecard.
Yeah. The log shows units in the machinery and the electric power and gas sectors completed their 10-session protocol. And they exited with a final total score of positive 35.8 points.
Which is incredible.
Positive 35.8 points in the middle of a market environment that is actively tearing other units apart.
And the selection of machinery and electric power and gas perfectly validates the mountain climbers' equilibrium philosophy.
Because they're heavy defensive sectors.
Exactly. They're incredibly heavy infrastructural sectors. They represent inelastic demand. I mean, even in a severe market panic, the fundamental requirement for electricity remains constant.
Right. People still need power.
And heavy machinery contracts do not just evaporate overnight. So while the broader indices were highly volatile, the algorithm found the most deeply rooted sectors, anchored its units there, and just wrote out the mandated 10 sessions to secure a really significant mathematical gain.
So while the surfers are out there getting tossed around by the rip currents, the climbers found a reinforced concrete bunker, waited out the 10 sessions, and extracted a win.
That's a perfect way to put it. Meanwhile, the Wave Riders had 0 units complete their 10-session exit today.
Not at all.
No assigned exits for their entire roster.
Wow. But how do these daily survival numbers translate to the ultimate goal of the simulation?
Yeah.
Because we are evaluating the grand scheme of the season, right? Not just a single isolated trading day.
Exactly. And pulling back the lens to look at the season standings reveals Team AI Lab's entirely cold objective research perspective.
Right.
Because despite the grueling daily conditions and the severe negative contrast against the major indices, both algorithms are actually maintaining positive total season points.
Yeah, the mountain climbers sit at a total of positive 9.4 points for the season, and their daily score today actually spiked to positive 60.0 points, alongside a carryover balance of positive 19.8.
And that 60-point daily spike is the direct result of those infrastructural sectors hitting their mandated exits.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the algorithm's patience paid off in a single concentrated burst of points.
And then the Wave Riders, despite having only 8 units surviving today, they are sitting at a total season score of positive 26.6 points.
Right. Their daily score today was a minimal positive 0.3, but they are sustained by a carryover balance of positive 56.6 from earlier in the season.
So the Surging Force algorithm caught significant momentum earlier in the season when the market vectors were cleaner.
Exactly.
They built up a buffer of 56.6 points, and now they are essentially just treading water. They generated 0.3 points today, just trying to survive the turbulence without bleeding out all their accumulated gains.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. But the most crucial takeaway from this log is how the researchers at Team AI Lab actually interpret this attrition.
Right, their perspective on the losses.
Yeah, when 14 out of 22 Wave Rider units drop into the negative, or 11 out of 22 mountain climbers fall below the threshold, the lab never views it as a defeat.
It is entirely treated as high-resolution telemetry. I mean, think about it. If a planetary exploration rover gets stuck in a crater on Mars, the engineering team does not view the mission as a failure.
No, they don't cry over the rover.
Exactly. They immediately pull the telemetry data and they update the topographical map so that every single subsequent rover avoids that exact crater.
Right. Every single loss, every negative point registered in this simulation is simply the cost of purchasing data for the future.
Today's deep scars literally become tomorrow's navigational maps.
The lab is meticulously mapping the exact boundaries of algorithmic failure to ensure the next iteration of the code understands precisely where the cliff edges are located. It really leaves us with a critical question about how we evaluate systems in uncertain environments.
Oh, how so?
Well, what if the true measure of a brilliant strategy is not how efficiently it accumulates points when the market is easy and the trends are clear? What if true brilliance is a system's capacity to objectively document its own failures, to record every single point of friction, so that it can dynamically evolve when the rules of the world suddenly vanish?
That is a phenomenal point to end on. A brilliant strategy is one that learns from the darkness. So if you want to keep tracking these algorithmic lighthouses in the dark, and you want to see how these two distinct philosophies adapt as the simulation continues, you need to subscribe to the channel right now. We are going to keep following this data.
Definitely stay tuned.
Furthermore, I strongly encourage you to check the video description right now for the link to the Team AI Lab Substack. If you really want to dive into the raw mechanics, you should sign up for the paid Substack subscription. That is exactly where you gain full access to the granular analytical data, the underlying performance metrics, and the ongoing highly classified observation logs. You get to look directly at the exact same data maps the scientists are using to chart these unknown market environments. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you in the next observation log.